Welcome back to Custom Home Builder Solutions, also known as CHS, a job costing, full accounting, and profit management software for the professional home builder. In our previous video, we just did a video about printing checks, printing big batch of checks for bills that you posted and then selected to pay. And in this video, to follow up, I'd like to talk about how you can sort of print checks on the fly if you're needing to either to print a check real quick or to post a manual check that somebody wrote. There's a couple of ways of doing that. First of all, if you have not posted the bill yet that you want to quickly write a check for, you would go to Post New Payables Records. I clicked the Post Payables, and then on the menu that opens, I'm going to do Post New Payables Records. And I want to pay this architect real quick for something that they've asked for, so I'm going to create a job-related bill. Please watch other videos about doing posting bills and accounts payable and all the fields on this window, etc. That's not what this is about. So I'm going to just go ahead and select a PO. You don't have to use POs, but I'll select a PO so I can get all the fields filled in. You could, of course, be just selecting your job and typing in a description, etc., but I don't want to spend time doing that in this video. What I'm wanting to show you, and you could of course have added more lines so that you have more lines to other jobs or something that you're printing on one check, but I wanted to show you that when you're posting bills, you could go post your bill right now, you submit it, and on the window that pops up, you could of course post it as unpaid to pay later, where you'd be selecting it to pay in a big check run like we did in the previous video. But right now I want to post payment or print checks, so I'm going to click this button, and it's going to go ahead and post them as unpaid real quickly because it needs to refer to these posted unpaid bills. When it's just on that other window where you did your entry, it's not posted anywhere yet. So in order to print the check, it has to get those posted first, so that it posts them as unpaid. Like if I close this right now, I'd find that bill in my list of unpaid bills. This shows you the amount that the check will be. You can click on it and drill down, to see the detail, if it's 2 or 3 lines, etc., or upload, a copy of the bill right now if you wanted. You could upload one or write some notes about it, who knows. But that's all in the payables videos about how to do that kind of thing. Essentially, like I showed you in my previous video, I discussed about how you set up your company master and tell it a default cash account to drop in, but you could of course select a different cash account from your list of cash accounts on your chart of accounts to post this check to. You also have a default check style that's dropping in, but if you need a different one, you could do that. And you enter the check date of today or after the date of your invoice. It's as of the invoice or after that will allow you to do a check. And I'm going to see which check number it is I'm going to print here, 3059, because that's a list of checks on this checking account in descending order. Since I'm not really doing this, I have to always look at that and come up with a number. I'm not really, this is a demo. I could write some memo, that would print on the check, which I left out of my previous video, but, this is a memo, and I'll show you how that shows up on the thing. I'm going to have to pause for just a minute. Okay, I'm back. I was just typing in that this is a memo, and we'll see how that looks when we go to print the check. But what I wanted to mention is if somebody had written a manual check for this amount and you're just needing to get it posted, you could just use this post as paid, do not print check, and CHS will go ahead and go post the check as if it was printed, post the check part that deducts the amount from your checking account, and it'll mark this invoice entry as paid by this check number from this checking account. So you can just simply post as paid, and that's the way you'd handle some manual check that was written. But let's take a look at how that memo looks since I left it out of my last video. You can see that right here under the address on the face of the check, there is the memo. If you did a memo on a big, when you're printing a big batch of checks, it would be the same memo on all the checks. So if there's some particular memo you want on the face of a check for one check, you probably want to be sure you're just printing one check. So this is the same as in the previous video. I've opened a PDF. I could export it to my own PDF reader, which might help me even a little more make sure that it fits and that I haven't, when I go to print it, I don't have anything that's sizing to fit. Please watch the previous video about that. But like I say, don't walk away before you close this PDF so that you can tell CHS whether to post that check as paid or not. Maybe it didn't print right, so you want to say no, and then you want to redo it. And if you do no, it'll just leave that check now out there in the unpaid payables bills, and you could go find it there, which is what we're going to do next, is about doing a quick check on the unpaid payables window. But I'm going to go ahead and post this one as that it posted okay. It shows me my checking account balance like you saw. And I could get a list of all checks with same date and cash account. Since I did a previous video, you can see that I have some other checks, and then here's the one that I just did included in today's list of checks. Let's go to another way. If you did post the bill and marked it as unpaid to pay later, you can do quick for a manual check and unpaid payables. Let's just do, we haven't opened this one so much in our other videos, but let's say we just know we need to do a quick check for, let's say, ATS engineering. So we're just selecting that. We don't want to open this great big thing for selecting a bunch of bills or looking at a bunch of things. But this would be the same kind of feature on that great big window. If I select this, first you would need whatever invoices you want to include on the check. You would need to check mark them as to pay. Notice we're going to be using this payment button, this payment link, and that knows just to print a check for the ones check marked to pay for just this vendor. Based on the record line that you do this, it looks for all for this vendor to pay. But notice what happens if I click the payment. It says there are no entries marked to pay, etc., and that you need to mark some before it, so it'll know which one of these entries to include on the check. So now if I do the payment for this thing that pops up is going to say, do I want to post or print a check, which is what we're doing right now. We're wanting to print a quick check to this whatever vendor we selected, or post a manual check somebody else wrote. The other button is for post as paid by credit card, and if you'll watch the various help or look at the help or videos for help about marking things as paid by credit card, that'll help you with that button. There's actually a video I'll put right after this video that's actually directly about that subject. But we're going to use the button to print or post check, and we can see here that we have a screen similar to our other screens, but it knows that it's going to print a check for one vendor, that you've just done that payment link, and so we're not doing a big batch of checks, that it's just going to do for this one vendor. So it has a button on this window. Since check is for one vendor, it can be posted without printing. So just like in the other one from where I was creating a new bill, I could use post as paid, do not print check, or I could print check. So this one you would use if you're doing a manual check. This one you would use if you're going to print the check. Let's say somebody did already write a manual check. We're okay with this date. Somebody got the next check up, check number 3060, wrote out a manual check. So I'm putting that check number in for the manual, whatever the check number was for the manual check. And this time, instead of opening the PDF to print checks, I'll post this as paid because somebody did a manual check. It's telling me it's going to behave like the others. In this case, since I'm doing it from the unpaid payables window, it gives me the question to yes, the checks ran okay, which I'll just say yes because somebody hand wrote the check. So I'll say yes, so it gets posted as paid. And if I list all checks with the same date, which is today where I'm doing all these videos, you'll see that that's now in the list of checks as if it was paid just like we printed one. So that's how you do on the fly, sort of either printing one check for one vendor or posting a manual check to one vendor instead of in a big check run, which is what my first video was about. I want to come back in, I think the next video that'll come up in the playlist will probably be about posting something as paid by credit card. But right after that, I'd like to talk about a couple of other things. Well, first of all, I'll just talk about that here. If you have any vendors marked as inactive, and you'll see that when we're talking about vendors, etc., about how you can mark them as inactive, CHS will let you post a bill and put it in the unpaid bills for somebody marked as inactive, but then it will not print or post a check for that vendor until you get it set to active. Some builders use that feature to control. Suddenly they want to go ahead and show that they have that payable due to that vendor, but they don't want checks to get printed. They might use that as the control. Usually you're using the active or inactive status of a vendor just so it's not active anymore because you're not using them anymore, but you can also use that feature. And I just wanted to point that out. If you select pay a whole bunch of checks, one of them that might not get included, even though you've selected them to pay, is one's for inactive vendors. And various places it will let you know that. All right, I'm going to come back and I want to talk about what if you do a big batch of checks, you tell it to print them, they all go to your printer, and you walk away from your machine, you let your browser go idle after 30 minutes, and they never get posted. And I want to show you how CHS catches that and protects you from having that happen, because it wouldn't be good if you had checks out there. So we'll talk about that in the next video that I'm going to do right now. Thank you for watching.